Welcome to episode 2 of You Want to Be an Electrician. This episode is only one interview long, and the electrician wants to remain anonymous. And he talks about his experience as a tester and how employers are putting pressure on him to falsify documents and to get things through the testing phase of a building.
How long have you been an electrician?
I've been an electrician for 30 years this year, so I started my journey as an electrician when I was 16. Left school, straight into the industry, haven't left for 30 years. Been playing the game, so it's man and boy. Testing is my game now, so I basically look after people's or sign people's work off once the work's been carried out. Very difficult job because there's not many electricians left to do the job, so we're mainly mopping up, fixing stuff, making sure it's a standard, can be acceptable, and basically, basically get it to a standard that it can be livable for someone to.
So you did a traditional apprenticeship.
Yeah, I did a fully indentured apprenticeship, basically, which means that I was funded by the government to get qualified as an electrician. A big firm, so I started off with a firm. Um, everyone was working together. We did big cable pulls, did the BT, we did the fire alarms, we did all the containment, the metal work, all the planning. There was an engineer, charge hand, a foreman, and then electricians under them. There wasn't a big office as such, but jobs got done. Was high standard, and every part of the electrical job, every part of the cabling was done by electricians. Today's electricians don't have that opportunity to do every cable on the site. They just get to do certain cables.
Why do you want your identity hidden? Is there some sort of negative connotation to the industry?
The industry, it basically likes to gloss over the health and safety aspects. Sometimes, all the time, um, jobs get behind, safety standards get lowered to save costs. So as a tester, I end up going into jobs, as I said, mopping up after they've attempted to do the job. So that means the labour on the job wasn't electrical. It was basically done by people that should have been trained rather than.
What do you think of the level of training and the standard of
My level of
electricians now?
my level of training was a higher level of training. So basically, if I had to do a task and I did the task wrong in my apprenticeship, the electrician would make me do it over and over again until that task was perfection. And that installed into me that you would do the job once and try and do it right. Whereas now, the youngsters don't get shown how to do it right, but are expected to do it right. And the difference is they don't know how to do it right, so it ends up being a dog's dinner. Everything ends up being a mess, substandard, and then then it's basically mop up crew at the end to try and make it to a standard. Sometimes can't really can't expression you can't not all jobs are actually can't.
That's all right, just
Yeah,
keep talking, it's fine.
I'm trying to think the expression. um, yeah, like I say,
So the install level is of a poor standard now, poorer standard than what it was when you were younger.
much poorer standard because the person telling the man to put the job in is of a poor standard too. So therefore, standards are reduced highly because the man telling the man to do the job doesn't know what he's doing either. So now we're all, standing there scratching our balls.
So, where do you see the industry going in the future?
Well, as I said, I'm near enough 50 in the game. Probably last of the old school smarts being trained. So give it another 10 years, there won't be anyone left who knows what they're doing, and the standards and the danger on site are just going to be increased because of the lack of knowledge and the lack of knowing of how to do a job from start to finish. People know bits and pieces, but there's just no continuity of work now. So from the top, people that go to the top have bought their cards. They've not been put there on merit. They've got a black hat. They've paid for that black hat. That makes them a charge hand, which in my book doesn't make them a charge hand because you bought a black hat. You should be there on merit. You should be there because you're top of your class in the school, in the electrical game. You're top of your class. That means you become a tester. That means you become a charge hand or a foreman. But that's not the way the game works. You just buy your ticket, you say what you are, you pretend you can, no, you blag your way through it. I've seen so many people blag their way through it. Then the blame game starts, and basically it's just a mess. The industry is a mess, and it's not going to get any better.
What about financially? Do you think that they pay enough money to encourage people to be of a high standard?
The standard starts from training. So if you're not being trained to start with, you're not going to be able to achieve a standard. The money is contentious because some people earn, some people don't. I've been fortunate in the game to get by, to earn enough, to know enough, to earn enough. But there's not enough knowledge in the game for people to follow suit. There's again the substandard comes into it. Like people want to work on price. And when you work on price, the standard falls even further because people just want to earn money. They don't want to. They won't really care about the standard, and it just all goes downhill. But yeah, basically the money can be good, but I'm earning the same money I was earning 20 years ago. So as a fully qualified, approved JLB approved electrician, I'm earning the same money I was earning 25 years ago. Except all my bills have gone up, all my costs have gone up, all my qualification costs have gone up. The only thing that hasn't gone up really in line with that is wages. Electricians used to be highest paid on site. Now I'd say we're pretty much all paid the same, except that we had to have more qualifications, keep our qualifications up, have more tools, keep the standard of them tools up. We had to get them calibrated. We're not compensated for the upkeep of our tools. They want us to supply batteries. It costs £90 for a set of leads. They last 6 months, and then I've got to spend another £90 to get another set of leads. And there's just no help with the cost. I mean, I might get an extra hour a day for testing on top of what electrician would get. But an hour a day doesn't really cover the cost of a meter. If I drop my meter, it costs me 500 quid to get it fixed. I mean, it's not sustainable anymore. I might as well just be on the tools and not do what I do because it's pointless. I might as well just be on the tools and make my own mess and clear my own mess up.
Would you say the only reason it works for you is because, unlike the young who have to have mortgages and they're huge mortgages and that now, you're at a standard in your life where the money's just about acceptable?
I wouldn't even say that because my mortgage is basically 2 weeks money after tax. So I live on 2 weeks money rest of the month for food. So my food costs me probably a week's money for the month, and then yeah, so I'm left with a week's wages to juggle to keep the missus happy, go on holidays, stuff like that. So a week out of the month's money is mine basically, and that's and I don't have a high standard of living. I live in a nice house. I may be able to scrape a holiday once a year if I'm lucky. I don't live an extravagant life. I don't have, I don't eat out. I don't, I just live the basic life so that I can afford my bills and keep my head above water. But there's not really much left to for toys and games and holidays. Really, it's not a lot left in it.
If you
Don't
weren't
work.
working because you're self-employed, how long do you think you could sustain your lifestyle without work? A month, 2 months?
And probably not even that. I'll probably be 6 weeks. I had an incident where I broke my toe a couple of years back. And luckily my mum managed to help me out money wise. I would have got nothing from the government. I've tried to sign on before. I don't qualify to sign on because I'm self-employed, so I don't really get any help. Yeah, so I mean, through the years I've had back injuries, which is I've had to work through, like, because I can't afford to be off work. But I've had to pay for my own treatment because I can't afford to be off work and I can't afford to wait for the NHS. Because all they want to do is give you pills, and I'm not interested in pills because obviously I need to work. Can't work when you're dosed up. So obviously it's then physiotherapy. You're looking at £50 maybe twice a week to try and get yourself sorted. That comes out of obviously any spare money you had, and you've got to look after yourself. You've got to be able to work. So you need to get fixed. So you sort of a cycle of injury, go to work, hobble, go to work, and then basically try and pay for treatment as you're going and try and struggle through without getting sacked.
So when things go wrong, it affects you for a long time after.
Well, yeah, because obviously clawing the money back's difficult. Um, yeah, so basically, yeah, any injury could set you back months at a time. So
And what do you feel about pensions? Have you got provision for that, or
when I done my apprenticeship, to be put into a pot for the JRB, which the firm matched. So we're up to the age of 22. I managed to amass a £30,000 pension with the JRB. Self-employed, never managed to save another penny. And to be fair, like, I don't think the amount of money you got to put away to get a decent living, you might as well put it into other investments and try and do something that way rather than rely on a pension that's going to be eroded by inflation by the time you get to it.
what would you advise any young person to consider about coming into this trade?
I wouldn't recommend my son come into the trade because a lot of hard work, not a lot of financial reward, and a lot of high risk towards your personal safety, and like you can be responsible for hurting other people within the game, and the money doesn't reflect the risk. I don't think to that extent. I think it's should be a bit more reward. There should the conditions aren't the best, so it should be reflected in your wages. Obviously, as I said before, like, you start off as an apprentice, you should get your crack money and you're learning. Then you become qualified, so you should get a decent rate. Then if you push yourself forward and become a tester, you should get even more. And if you step up and become a charge earner or foreman, it should be more, but it should all be on merit. It shouldn't be the fact that you're buying a ticket or you're buying your way through the game and you're telling people that you're qualified. It should be on a merit system where you get qualified or you get asked to become the test, or you'll be asked to become the charge hand because you've shown excellence in your field, rather than paying for it and just taking it basically.
Yeah. So regarding your JIB card, do you think the JIB are looking after you with your skills?
JRB is not really set up to look after us. I don't think it's more to set up to look after the firms to set the rates and make make it okay for the firms providing the work. They're not really set up to help the man on the job. They're not. I've had no contact with the JRB since I've 22 and I've left my apprenticeship. And so with the ECS cards, same test for the last 30 years. It's been the same test. Nothing's changed. It's just a money-making skill, a money-making skill card. Which a lot of people don't realise is that if you applied for it after the 2 years, you wouldn't have to keep doing the tests because the card lasts for 3 years. You have to keep doing the tests. So basically, it's a money-making scheme. If it expires after 2 years, so if you did your card and you got within the 2 years, you wouldn't have to go and sit the ECS health and safety test again, which costs you £35. But nobody tells you that. Yeah, but the industry itself is it's just more of a box ticking exercise, especially with the testing. I've been testing for a good 25 years, and like mainly it started off with like pre-days of like Wembley, when Wembley was built, everything was done to a standard. It was a high standard. The work wouldn't be able to fault it. You could basically the design would be what would be installed. So like the drawing would match the install, the board would match the schedule, and the cable size would you'd probably be lucky to find the fault within the whole install. But fast forward to the days after Wembley, when they brought in the semi-skilled from Europe, and then the skills that just went downhill from there. Basically, 95% of circuits tested weren't what they said they were on the tin. Basically had faults left, right, and centre, whether it be a cable fault, connection fault. Um, never, it just never the standard was lost at Wembley, and we just never got it back. And just every job is a new low. People don't want to do things properly. People don't want to know because when you're testing, you're flagging up people's mistakes. That costs money to put right. So people don't want you to flag mistakes up. They want you to hide it, which is I'm not interested in hiding it. I'm just interested in doing a proper job. So basically, it gets to a point where you might get to a block of flats and they haven't tested like insulation resistance between live and neutral, for instance, because they've installed the lights, they've installed the USB sockets. So I know for a fact, especially on the job I'm on now, that they're committing fraud with the test sheets because they're not doing the test properly. The tester themselves isn't claiming to have done the test, so they're saying that they've done the test at 250 volts, which is initial testing should be done at 500 volts, and they've basically said they've got a 0.01 mega ohm reading on a USB socket. Basically, it means they can't be bothered to take the socket off, put it onto a connector block, test the cable properly, and then put it back together. But what the fraud bit is the fact that when they take these test results to the office can clearly see that they haven't done that test from the result that they've put down. And then what they do is instead of sending that tester back to redo that test, they Tipex it out, they put the result in, they change the voltage on the sheet, which is fraud. And then basically the fraud that test never gets done, and obviously this happens industry wide. This isn't just one on off instance. This is because testers can't be bothered to do the job properly, then they're not even forced to do the job properly, and then nobody knows that they haven't done the job properly because everyone covers it up and hides it.
So you feel that you're financially obliged to do your job, but it's not done the correct way. It's done just to survive, to get it done.
People do the job incorrectly because one, they don't want to get pumped and block the apple cart. So basically, if they point it out like myself, I don't mind pointing things out because I've been doing it for a long time and I'll make sure it's done properly. But the problem is the youngsters coming through haven't got the confidence that I've got in and the knowledge of the testing side of things. So they will not make a stand or even know that fraud's been committed because they just haven't got the knowledge of doing the job properly. or overseeing the fact that they've signed this bit of paper, they've signed this legal document, and then things are being changed once they've signed this legal document, which to me is fraud. But also on another note, I was working for a big firm who'd been caught out by the council for committing fraud. And basically I tested a few blocks of flats to get this particular firm out of trouble. And I went in the office one day, and the engineer basically said, "Oh, we have put your signature on all these other jobs, because obviously you've done these three." I was like, "Yeah, but that's fraud. You can't put my name on these other jobs. I've never been in these other jobs." "Oh yes, but you know, it's your firm. You've work." I said, "Yeah, but you're not putting my name on substandard work. There's just not." I said, "I don't know what you've done in these buildings." And I said, "At the end of the day, you can take my name off, and you can absolve me of any responsibility by writing me an email to say that you've taken me off. Otherwise, I'm going to go to the police." And it ended up getting resolved because the engineer above him realised that I wasn't going to be taking any nonsense.
What is apparent from the interview is that the older generations of electricians are disappearing, and it seems to be that they're the ones with the conscience to actually step up and argue when things are wrong. There's a lot of financial pressure on the younger generation now just to toe the line and get on with their job. Now, there's nothing going to change in this industry unless we all stick together, and we need to get onto our MPs or other lobbying to get this put across, because in 10 years, if it doesn't change, the electrical industry will cease to exist as we know it.